Bump and Run with Bernie and Dahlby. Presented by Burrito Express, your local burrito joint. Now, here's Brett Bernheisel and Steve Dahlby.
Well, here we are. Podcast number 4. Yeah. We're moving right along, Dahlby. I mean, pretty soon we'll be at podcast number 5. I just want to let everybody know that I have named the studio. It's not really a studio, but it's a room. I am now calling it Bernie's Bunker, thanks to my wife, Ellie, who came up with the name, and I simply nodded my head and agreed. So for now on, this is Bernie's Bunker. What is your room called, Dahlby?
I'm not sure yet. I'll figure something out.
And I see the clock hasn't moved.
No, the clock. Time stands still for this show.
I had people reaching out to me going, Dahlby's clock never moves. And I'm like, yeah, it's an antique. And when you have an antique so old as that, sometimes it just, time stands still. So, yeah.
That's it. You've got golf clubs. You've got a picture. Did I see a new addition to Bernie's Bunker today? I know some people aren't going to see it, but because they're listening to this podcast. But I do have an old bib that here. Let me see if I can do this without looking like an idiot. Probably already am. It's from the old Buy.com tour. Back in the day, upside down, sideways, or whatever. But anyway, it's a funny story about this bib. So we were in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Beautiful place, by the way, if you're ever looking for a vacation. And I'm caddying for this guy, John Patterson, because Eeks fired me in Toronto, and I was working for this guy. And honestly, Dahlby, I've never seen anybody in my life. You could go to Vegas and you can bet whatever you wanted that this guy would at least have 1 or 2 shanks in a round. And because he hit these high 30-yard draws and he got stuck sometimes and he hit these shanks. Well, anyway, I'm caddying for him. And I'm staying in a hotel in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and who's staying right next to me was R.W. Eeks. And he knocks on my door one night and he goes, "I need you back." And I'm like, "Dude, we've done this so many times, whatever." And I agreed to go back. And this is going to be the final week with this guy. And we're in the final round. We're on the reverse side of the horseshoe, which for people that don't know, there's threesomes off both tees for the final couple of rounds back then. And we were like second to last off the 10th tee. And we made the turn and we came to number 2, par 3, about 180. And he wants to hit 7-iron. And I said, "No, dude, 8's plenty for you. 8's plenty." And he's like, "Okay, all right, bud." And he hits this 8, and it never leaves the flag. It was one of the few shots that he didn't hit. It's this big hook, and it never left the flag. And in the middle of the air, and I swear to you, I said, "If that's not the right fucking club, then I'm done." And it took one hop, went in the hole, and the rest of the guys in the group and caddies didn't go congratulate him. They came over to congratulate me on making the call. So at the end of the round, well, of course,
at the end of the round, he signed it for me and said, "Bernie, thanks for letting me play the game." It was pretty cool. So that's something I've had since, 1999, 2000. So that's one of the cool things that I'll put up in the Bernie's Bunker here real soon once I figure out where it has to go to be visible.
How long did you caddy? How long was your caddy career?
So my first event on tour was in 84. So I caddied 2 tournaments in 84 when I lied about my age, of course. And then I caddied in 85 for 6 or 7 events, 90 the whole year for RW, I think, until, he might have fired me once. But the whole 90, 91, then back in 95, and then 99, 2000, 2001, and a couple tournaments in 02. And then I retired. So
and then you were bouncing PGA Tour, Buy.com Tour, whatever you want to say, Web.com,
Champions,
whatever it was.
Ladies champion. I did them all. I did the.
Okay.
It's now the Corn Ferry, PGA Champions, ladies. I was in a car a long time in my life. I drove a lot of miles through the country. Never caddied the Canadian tour though, but I did caddy in Canada though.
And caddied in some Mondays then, I'm sure.
Well, lots of Mondays, as we talked about last week. And you know what? And we have not prepped this show, so this is going to be winged. But the guy we had on last week, and thanks to him, we got a lot of good reviews and a lot of good views on our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Ryan French. This is a cool story. It's a sad story, but a cool story. He was at the Colorado Open yesterday doing a bunch of videos because he's allowed to do it at the Colorado Open, and he flew to Reno to caddy for his friend Mark Baldwin, who plays on the Corn Ferry Tour, who was trying to Monday today up in Reno at the Barbazol. Or Barracuda, Barbazol, I get him confused. And he shoots 7 under, and his first tweet was, we thought 8 was the number. He hit a great chip on 18 that hit the flag and kicked off and stopped about a foot away, so they had to post 7 under. The guy that you brought up, and this is funny, the guy you brought up a couple weeks ago, Justin Suh, he shot 9 under and was medalist today, so he's in this week. But anyway, they had to wait around, and somebody else shot 9, another guy shot 8, and then somebody shot 7. And I remember the guy's name. Give me 1 second here. So anyway, they go for a 2-for-1, which to Monday Q info is boring as can be. And anyway, so the guy they're in the playoff with, and I'll find his name here in a minute. They're on the first playoff hole, and the guy hits a putt to about 18 inches and rushes it and misses. And
like
so
goes
Mark
up to
Baldwin,
tap in?
Yeah, goes up to tap in. You know, I'm going to finish real quick. Doesn't take much time. Misses the putt and is eliminated. And Baldwin now gets in. So I've been there. There was a putt in the Utah State Amateur back when I was a kid, back in the late '80s, that I rushed up in a quarterfinal match and missed it and ended up getting eliminated. But, you know, those things, like you think those 18-inch putts are, you know, when you watch it on TV, and you know this as well as anybody, when you watch it on TV, you know, anything inside 3 feet, you expect the PGA Tour Pro or LPGA Tour Pro or whoever to make the putt. I remember times when if RW had it inside 3 feet, I couldn't watch. I couldn't watch because I didn't know if he was going to make it or not. But when you watch it on television, especially nowadays, how good these players are, you expect every one of them to make these putts. And like this guy just rushed up, had an 18-incher, missed it, and now he's trunk slamming and heading to the next state open or whatever he might play in.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a tough one. It is a tough one, and that's where sometimes with my junior golfers, I'll make sure that they understand when they're playing in a tournament, no matter what. And maybe it's a tap in, but just take that extra 2, 3, 5 seconds to make sure that you're cleaning stuff up properly, or mark it. You know, I'm sure, you know, he was probably just trying to get out of the way with a short putt. But in a situation like that, where you're, you know, where that could be a life changer, mark the ball, make sure you know what you're doing, and then and even if it takes a little extra time, so be it. In that situation where he was today, mark the ball, make sure, and then move on.
The guy's name was Justin Warren, and he put out a tweet that said, "Can assure that the feeling isn't good. Amazing what nerves and pressure do. Routine flew straight out the window and rushed an extremely important putt. On to the next one." Quote, quote.
Yeah, and so, just what we're talking about, the pressure, and you know, who knows how many PGA Tour events this guy's qualified for? Probably not that many. And like I said, a tournament like the Barracuda can be a life changer, because you get into that field. It's not the strongest field, so there's opportunity with that for a Monday qualifier. But yeah, what he just said, he lost his routine. And if you have a routine as a player, you've got to always stick to that routine no matter what. And in a situation like that, he probably needed to try to slow things down. Things got very, very fast for him today.
Yeah, I'm kudos. I'm happy for Monday Q and Mark Baldwin, but yeah, for this guy, Justin Warren, that sucks. Like you said, you're on the verge. And for somebody that doesn't have any status on the PGA Tour, you don't get many opportunities like this to be able to play in a tour event. And when times like this happen, you see, whether you go back to the days of, Kenny Knox or the Corey Connors that won at Valero. They're life-changing moments just to be able to get into the field. So yeah, I'm happy for Monday Q, but I don't know the guy. This Justin Warren, I don't know him. So that sucks. Did you watch any Olympics? Do you want to see the
One
Olympics
more
this
thing
week?
one more thing with that. Is Monday on the bag this week then?
Yes.
Do we know?
Yes.
That's
yes,
great.
He's on the bag. He's
Excellent.
on the bag.
That'll
now,
be fun.
So it will be, and I'll be, and I've actually followed this Mark Baldwin. Follow him on Twitter. He follows us on Twitter. Just because of Monday Q being good friends with him, it's like our friend Neil Johnson, things like that. He's close with a few guys, and you asked him those questions last week. He's just closer to some than he is with others, and this is cool. And I hope they play well, because it's like he put something that was pretty funny, that whoever the first alternate is in Utah this week for the KFT event owes Mark a beer, because now he's in, because Baldwin was in the KFT event in Utah for the Utah Championship.
Yeah. Sure.
So now he withdraws, and first alternate, who's probably, and they only have 2 tournaments left. I don't know if you knew this. They only have 2 tournaments left. This one and the following one. And the following one is a complete point-based field, to where it's the top, whatever, 140 or whatever it is on the point list. There's not going to be a Monday Q for it. So with only having 2 events left, this is a big week. So whoever was first alternate this week, and I'm not going to look it up, I don't have time. Whoever's first alternate should be very lucky that Baldwin got through in this playoff. But did you watch the Olympics? What do you think? If you didn't, I've
watched the Olympics, some of the Olympics. I haven't watched much golf. I watched the playoff for the bronze medal. That was interesting. What was it? 7-8 guys in that playoff. But I didn't watch a lot of the golf. And there was some of it I did tune in a couple times where, and I don't know if it was just me, but there was no sound on the Golf Channel. And that was strange. And it's strange that, throughout the Olympics, that they've got all these beautiful stadiums, and then the golf course, there's nobody out there, fanless. So it's a strange Olympics just overall, in my opinion.
Kudos to Schauffele, who got the job done and beat Rory Sabatini.
Beat your man. Yeah. Your guy.
No, he's not my man. No, he's not. No, I'm not a.
Do you
I'm
not
a
like
fan of
Rory Sabat?
No.
Why?
I don't.
What happened?
So, back in the day, believe it or not, for you people that are watching this on YouTube, you can look at my face. I did have a television show for 1 year. I did it with a guy that finished runner-up in the Masters the year that Craig Stadler won, and played in the Ryder Cup. Dan Pohl, who hit the ball back in the day with persimmon clubs as far as anybody, if not farther, that played the PGA Tour. And we were doing a show in Tucson, so we drove down to Tucson, and we're going to interview Rory Sabatini. And so we get to the course, blah blah blah. We pick a hole to go out and play, just to shoot some film back then that was taped, edited, taped. I mean, took forever. We played one hole. I think it took like 2 hours. But anyway, so I hit this perfect drive. For me, about, I don't know, 260 back then, and I got a 5-wood or a 4-wood into this par 5, and I completely top it. Just dead over the top this thing. And he had just turned pro, and he was playing with this company back in the day called Tight Lies. And he looked at me, and this is caught on camera, and they ended up using it. If you would have had a Tight Lies, this never would have happened. And I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. So anyway, we get to the green, and now we're trying to tape him to make this 8-foot putt for birdie. Miss, retape, miss, retape, miss, retape, miss, retape. And I said, dude, you're worried about me hitting a 4-wood from the fairway. Can you make a putt? I didn't say putt. I probably said, can you make a fucking putt? And he got mad. He stared me down. He finally made it on the fifth putt. But after that, I've never been a fan. And I've done some asking with people on tour, players, caddies, and I would say probably, and he does have 10% that like him, but 90% really don't like him, and I'm one of those 90%. But that's just me. Doesn't mean that some other people that are watching this don't like him. But he does give a lot of money to the military. I'll give him kudos for that. But yeah, I just never been a big fan, and that was 20-something years ago, and I kind of still hold a grudge.
Yeah, you have history. What did you think about the Olympic, the golf? What did you think? when you think of it overall, do you like the tournament? Do you like that there's golf in the Olympics, especially this year with the Ryder Cup? Some guys maybe not playing.
I think
maybe not.
I mean, I watched the final round. I watched a little bit before maybe the first. I didn't watch as much of it as I did the final round. I was intrigued by, just because of the story that there's going to be a gold medal champion. I don't know. I mean, I actually would like to have seen it in a match play format, but that's just me. Maybe I'm completely, out of bounds on that. But the last round was good. I wasn't. I'll be honest. I'd rather watch the Barracuda Championship than I would have watched this. But and that's probably bad to say, but it's the truth. I liked it, but it wasn't something that I couldn't wait to watch it. It wasn't like, oh my God, the thing's on. I grab a beer and let's watch it. I was never into it like that.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about the Ryder Cup, obviously you're going to be glued to the TV for that.
Sure, absolutely, 100% on that. Yeah,
and I think in the Olympics. Olympics, it's new. Golf's still new in the Olympics, so maybe it takes a little time to grow. But I'm kind of I turned it on, but I wasn't too intrigued by it, I guess.
Okay, how about the Shoe? Hey, Shoe, I know they're there because you're part.
Shoe.
Did you watch?
Hello,
any?
Guys.
Yeah, there you are, Shoe. Yeah, hi.
No, I didn't, and I was just going to run an idea by you guys and let me know what you guys think, because Bernie, I agree 100% with what you said about this needing to be a match play format, because I don't know about you guys, but when I think of the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup, that is a different format from anything we do on the tour. It is different. It is different than almost any event. There are a couple of match play events that we get throughout the course of the season, but it is different for that reason. Other than this being the Olympics, there's nothing different about the way this event is structured than anything on the tour. So I have an idea I want to run by you guys. The event that takes place in Dallas, that's a WGC event, right? The match play event that they do down in Dallas.
In Austin, Texas, yep.
Where they group everybody together, everybody's got a seed, and they group people, and you play everybody in the group, and then you move on. So why can't we have a bunch of people qualify for the Olympics? And then they go to wherever the Olympics are, and they play one round, and based on their score of that round, they're then seeded, and then they're put in groups, and we do a similar format to what we do in that Dallas event, and we have that be the way the Olympics are done.
I like something like that, Shu. I like something like that where when you look at some of the other sports and the sports that have been around a little bit more, when you look at the basketball teams, they're men and women, they're playing in a pool. Volleyball, they're playing in a pool, and then it kind of goes into the match play situation, and you get a champion. I like something like that a little bit better than a stroke play event.
I think it's just
Bernie?
higher stakes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's just, I mean, the Olympics, and I agree with both. The Olympics should be something different than what we are accustomed to watching each and every week. But I will. The one thing I took out of this wasn't so much that Alexander, beat Sabatini, who now lives in a different country, and I'm moving to Guam, by the way. Is that Rory came out, or McIlroy came out and said he's never tried this hard in his life to finish third, which would have got him a medal. And and goes back to what you said, Dahlby, the playoff, the 8-for-1. That was cool. You had two foursomes, and the guys are waiting on the green for the other group to finish, and you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that to me was cool, and I think it would be even cooler going back to what you said, Shu. If you took whatever you wanted to do, if you wanted to take, the 60 players and make it into 32 or whatever, and then have that playoff for 8-for-1 to be able to advance to the match play portion of that. I think that would have been a cool thing. I would just like to see the Olympics be just a little bit different than what we normally see each and every week on the PGA Tour or European Tour.
And my last thought for you guys is time's not an issue, right? They have this entire Olympic schedule to fit this in.
Yes.
If it takes 2 weeks to determine who the golf champion is, it takes 2 weeks. Right, you have all of this time to be able to build this event and let it play out. When we have a PGA event, 4 days, it's got to be done. If it takes 6-7 days, it takes a whole week to get a golf event done. You have the time.
Well, okay, and I'll disagree with you there, and I'm gonna disagree with you for this because the Olympics the Olympic schedule was put in the middle of the PGA Tour to allow these players to play the week before, the week after, because like this week the WGC events in Memphis, as Steve talked about, we got the Barracuda up in Reno. So if you take 2 weeks now that just takes longer for these players to be able to come back, and the PGA Tour is going to have to. It only happens every 4 years. The PGA Tour is going to have to fix their schedule to allow for like 2 weeks off, because one of the hardest things for these players that I've read about in the last day or so is them getting to Japan and back to the United States or Europe or wherever they're at to be able to play in this week's WGC event or Barracuda.
Sure, but all these other sports do it. During the Winter Olympics, hockey, the NHL has, and they've fought over it a bunch, but they have an Olympic break where they built in their schedule. We're not going to be playing games from this time to this time to allow all of these players to represent their countries. So you can do it, and it's not like the Olympics sneak up on you. They're every 4 years, and they're normally at the same time. So it's just building it into the schedule that year. It shouldn't be that hard logistically to make that work.
Yeah, and Shu, so let's say, I don't know, in beach volleyball, for example, do the U.S., they have multiple teams, right? Do other countries have multiple teams, or like does some country have one team and the U.S. has a number of teams in something like that? Because I think in golf too, I'd love to see maybe 2-person teams playing in a match play situation, and maybe the U.S. has two-person teams. I'd love to see, like with the ladies, I'd love to see the Korda sisters going against the rest of the world. And I think in a match play situation, I'd be more apt to watch that than 72 holes like we watch every week.
Just like swimming, right? I mean, in swimming, you have multiple Americans swimming. You have multiple people from different countries swimming in these events or competing in these events. As long as the qualification system is set up, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't be able to do it. It would take a complete rework of how you do it, but it's not like the things that would normally get in the way would be in the way. You'd have the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. The Olympics are one of the biggest events that ever get put on in the world. You have the time, because all of these countries devote all of these resources and man and women power to be able to make all of this stuff work. So the things that could get in the way really aren't in the way. It would just take the creativity to restructure it and do something different. Now, maybe everybody feels comfortable with the way it is right now, and we get the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup to be able to, have our fun and do our match play, and they're fine with it the way that it is. But it doesn't have the same pizzazz and flavor to me the way the Ryder Cup does. Not even close.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree with that. I mean, being such a golf nut as far as I am, and I watch, so much golf, different than you, Dahlby, that you don't watch a lot on television because your whole life is golf. You're, teaching, whether it's juniors or, the PGA guys. So to you, it's not as exciting unless your guys maybe are in the hunt for you to watch an event. Where me, not being out there like you are, I watch a lot of golf, and, it's just, like I said, I'd rather, it was exciting. It was exciting on the final round, to watch. But besides that, it was okay to me. It wasn't anything like, I can't wait to watch this thing.
Yeah, and like you said, the playoff for the bronze medal was probably, in my mind, the highlight of men's Olympic golf. Now, we'll see this week the ladies start playing, so we'll see if maybe there's a story on the ladies side. Kind of jumping to another topic, and it is on the ladies side of golf. There are just some players, Bernie, that just know how to do it. And Annika Sorenstam this last week, she hasn't played much golf over the last decade, let's say, and has played a couple LPGA Tour events this year to kind of get ready for the U.S. Senior Women's Open and to win by 8. And it was funny. I don't know if you saw the interview. Her husband, who was on the bag, was crying and going nuts. Her little boy was so excited and tears coming out, and Annika was just the same as she was 20 years ago in the interview. Calm. This should have happened. This is my world. And it's just, there are some players, not a lot, but there are some players that are just that fucking good that no matter what and when, it just happens. Nicholas, when he was 46, it was supposed to happen. There's just those few players, and it was really cool to see, that her to just go out and just dominate a tournament again.
And I got a chance to meet her because of you 4 or 5, 6 years ago at McCormick Ranch, back when you were doing some stuff for some people there, and they had a big outing with Nicholas, Norman, and Annika. And Annika was cool enough to take a picture with me, even though she didn't know who I was. And, we talked for, 4 seconds. But when you look, when she asked her kids, she was retired, she was done. And she asked her kids if they ever wanted to see Mama go play golf again. And both her kids said, yes, we want to see Mama play again. So she devoted the last couple of years, not being so much the stay-at-home mom, and she still is, but not as much, to go out and try to compete for this moment. It wasn't like the 2 pre-LPGA events that you talked about, or 1, 2, 3, whatever she played in. It was for this particular moment for the U.S. Women's Senior Open. She got herself ready and absolutely kicked the shit out of the whole entire field. And it goes back to a quote, and I don't know who said it, and I read it today or yesterday, that she beat me 25 years ago. She's still going to beat me today, and she did. And that was, I think it was from our friend Ron Reed, Pebble Beach guy that we had on our show years and years ago, back when we were on live radio. And it's true. She kicked her ass then, and she went out and kicked him ass again. And I actually can't wait to see how she's going to do now that with this win. She qualifies for the regular U.S. Women's Open next year. I can't wait to see how she does in that. But the biggest question I want to know is, she won $180,000. Did she give her husband 10% or maybe a little bit more? That's the biggest question I'd like to know. Did he only get 18,000, or maybe did he get like 25,000?
Yeah, I bet he got a little bit more. I bet he got a little more. So that then, and what a cool thing for the whole family to be out there, and like you said, for her to kind of say to her kids, "Do you want to see me play?" And then to go out there and do it. And there's just those certain few players, Bernie, that I think, yeah, they beat me 25 years ago. They're going to beat me again, and I, they know it. I know it. Everybody else knows it, and she proved it this last week.
What are your thoughts about like spectators, like on the 18th hole, like getting close to the players? With your thoughts on that, and then what maybe some of the players that you teach, what are their thoughts on that? I mean, some people enjoy that. Some people just don't want to be don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to high five anybody. They just want to walk their path and be done. What are your thoughts of how they did that this week?
Well, and I think in a normal situation, let's say pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID here, I think having the fans in a situation where it's manageable, to have the fans come around. You remember when Tiger won the Tour Championship a couple of years ago at East Lake? He hadn't won for a while, and they walked down the 18th, and he had to kind of maneuver through them. And I guess there's probably always safety issues, but from a fan standpoint, watching it, it's kind of cool, I think. Do the players like it? I think it's something that, if you're at that level and you're Tiger Woods and it's happening, it's just something that you have to do. And hopefully we'll get to see Tiger do that again. I don't know. But in a situation, like I said, you think about Hale Irwin years ago at Medina, running around high-fiving people on the 18th green. It's pretty cool. So I like it. Right now, with COVID going on the PGA Tour, at least, even like a player being asked for an autograph on a practice round is not supposed to sign right now. And that's still with consideration to COVID and the bubble and all that stuff. And, you'll see if a kid asks Troy Merritt for an autograph, he's probably going to do it, but he might even say, hey, I'm not supposed to do this, but I will. And I'm sure I would hope that most of the guys would do that. But the rules right now are such that that's not supposed to happen. So, but that's, this is crazy times, right?
But okay, so that's a good. So you talk about that the PGA Tour doesn't want their players signing autographs and not so much I guess interacting, but yet in Major League Baseball, you got like, and I'll bring up an example. Sorry, Schubert. Here's my Philly fanatic, as we're only 2.5 games behind the Mets now. But you saw Andrew McCutchen yesterday. He used to be a Pittsburgh Pirate, who now is a Philadelphia Philly, signing autographs for hundreds and hundreds of kids outside of the stadium, nobody wearing a mask. So if Major League Baseball can let their players sign all these autographs and things like that, I don't understand why the PGA Tour can't allow their players to do that. Is there? I mean, I understand each sport's different, and you're right. COVID was here, COVID was gone, COVID's back. Now you got the Delta. Nobody knows what's going to happen right now in this COVID thing.
Right.
But if Major League Baseball is letting everybody do that, I don't understand why the PGA Tour can't allow. Like you said, Troy said he'll do it, or maybe somebody else will do that, and somebody else won't. I mean, there's got to be a line drawn, I think, to where it's either yes or no, or let's figure it out.
Yeah, and I think that the final answer needs to be, and again, we don't want to get political, but the final answer needs to come from the party in charge right now. But in terms of each sport, I think each sport does have the right now to look at things and try to do things. And I think the PGA Tour, being kind of the first sport to come back from COVID, they've always had this bubble. They're trying to keep this bubble. Obviously, the NBA, they played in one city for a while. So every sport has their different views. Now, if Major League Baseball wants to cut it loose, I'm all for that. If golf right now says we don't want to have that, that's their decision. So I'm okay with that. And hopefully it won't be too long and we can just say to hell with all of this and goodbye COVID and get on with the life as we used to know it. I hope that's the case. It's sad to me going back to the Olympics to watch these kids that have won gold medals, silver medals, bronze medals immediately have to put a mask on where we as fans can't see their smiles or their tears or what's going on. And I think that's a shame. I really do.
Hey, Dahlby, I got a question for you.
Yes.
And the only reason why I ask this is just because I don't think I've ever read it anywhere. What's the PGA's approach to vaccinations? Have they been driving and giving the resources available for players to be able to get their vaccinations? Because you mentioned Major League Baseball, and it's a sport that hits close to home for me. And I know that in spring training they had a bunch of doctors and they had experts go in and talk to each team when they were at their camps in spring training to kind of get out the movement so that players would get vaccinated. And you have a lot of teams that are hitting that 90% threshold to where they don't have to wear masks. They can take those liberties to interact with the fans because they know inside their own bubble they're relatively safe. And I just don't know what the PGA's procedures have been on that. And not saying it's negative, I just don't know.
Yeah, and then the procedures go back to when the PGA Tour was sort of the first sport to get started, where there was active testing, where even I, as a coach, to be in the bubble, was tested every time I went to the tournament, had to have a negative test. The players were tested multiple times getting a test on a Monday to be allowed to play that week, and then if they were going to fly in the charter on Sunday, then they needed to get tested on Sunday before they get. So a lot of testing. I think in terms of vaccination, I would say that the PGA Tour is behind, probably a good bit behind where Major League Baseball is. If you're saying that they're at the 90%, threshold. I think the PGA Tour has been probably a lot further behind that. I think they're probably approaching maybe that 75% situation where, and I do think, I think that it has always been where it's been recommended, but it hasn't been where there's been present. Like I've never seen a presentation or anything, or have heard of a presentation by doctors, like you're saying at spring training, where they're saying, okay, let's do this. There has been sort of that push now where there's not, the PGA Tour doesn't provide testing. So if you're going to get tested, you have to do it, you have to go find a private person or organization to do it. So it has changed a little bit, which I think puts pressure on the players to get vaccinated in terms of, how they can operate during the week. It is a little bit different, but I think there probably is still a lag behind what you're saying Major League Baseball is at. So, it is different. And Bernie, I think it just goes to say that every sport has treated things a little bit differently. And I think you could make an argument that the PGA Tour, starting very early, has done a pretty good job of being able to continue through this. But in terms of vaccinations, maybe not as great as some.
Did it? And we just watched, Rahm and DeChambeau have to withdraw from the Olympics. And I want to make this short and sweet with you on this. Did it piss you off that and I know you're vaccinated, and so am I. Did it piss you off that you had to go through all this stuff at each and every tournament knowing you're vaccinated? Then, I guess what I'm trying to say, having to go through all that, were you upset at all because you're cleared and ready to go, and you know that some people aren't?
It doesn't bother me because I think, and I think that I believe that everybody has the right to their opinion and thinking about how they want to go about this. For me, there were a number of reasons that I got vaccinated. One, though, was, as I saw it, to get vaccinated, I wouldn't have to be tested every week. And it kind of made sense that it was a little bit easier with my work to go ahead and do that. There were other reasons, but I do respect that, there are some guys on the PGA Tour that might lean pretty far right. And maybe they just don't want to get vaccinated. And if that's the case, I think they can have their opinion. Does it make it easier to be vaccinated? Probably for all of us, yes. But I'm not pissed off because somebody chooses not to get vaccinated.
The Barracudas this week, so the WGC. The Barracuda, Troy Merritt's had very good success the last couple of years there. Came close to winning twice. Morikawa beat him. Wawrinski beat him last year. From a coaching standpoint, you excited for this week because Troy's had such good success? I know Sean O'Hare's in the event this week, but is this something you're looking forward to? And usually you go to this tournament. I'm surprised that you're not going to Truckee this year to watch this event. But are you excited because Troy's always played well at this event?
Yeah, I think Troy's had good luck. When the tournament was in Reno 2 years ago, he ran second to Morikawa, and Morikawa had to, and it was Morikawa's first win. We all kind of knew he was a world beater, but and he had to do some great things coming in to beat Troy. And then last year they moved to move courses, so they moved to Truckee, and he played well again, and Wawrinski did some great things to beat him. It's a different format. It's 72 holes, but it's a points thing where, if you make birdie, you get 2 points. If you make a bogey, you lose a point. If you make an eagle, you're going to get, I think 4 points. So 5. So it's kind of a fun thing where it's more go out there and try to make a bunch of birdies, and you're going to make a couple bogeys, but that's okay. So it lends itself to aggressive golf. And the thing that I do like, obviously I like that Troy's played well in it. He's in a different position this season. The previous 2 seasons, playing well in the Barracuda was kind of okay. Now we've got a job for next year and we're in the playoffs. This year, he's, I think, and we're going to go over the FedEx list here in a little bit, but I think he's 67th or 68th in the FedEx points. So he's definitely in the playoffs. But what I said to him last week, and the reason I'm not going, I went to Minnesota a couple of weeks ago to the 3M championship. So I usually go about once a month to check on him. But I said, we're really two good tournaments away from a trip to Atlanta and the Tour Championship, and this being a very important one where let's say he gets it done this year, that in itself with maybe just a little bit of good play, the first two playoffs, he could very well get to the Tour Championship. But he's in a position where I think two good tournaments, he's going to play this one and then the first two playoff events, 2 out of 3, we're going to Atlanta, and he's never been to the Tour Championship, and that's been a goal and something I've been talking about to the guys all season. So I am excited for this week and to see if he can, maybe the third time's a charm here.
The show is not sponsored by Miller Lite, even though I'm drinking it. I'm trying to get Miller Lite to sponsor us, but they won't return any of my phone calls. I maybe have a bad ad agency. Are you in favor of 2 tournaments in 1 week? WGC, Barracuda this week. What are your thoughts as far as like opposite field events and things like that? And I know that Troy and Sean O'Hare wouldn't have gotten the WGC event this week, so it gives them an opportunity to play. But do you think that the tour could schedule things a little bit different to where we don't have so many opposite field events in 1 year, or are you okay with it?
I'm okay with it because I think what the PGA Tour is trying to do is they're trying to get done with the playoffs, which they're trying to beat the NFL. Basically, they want to get the playoffs done, get the Tour Championship done before football takes over, and that's a business decision. So I wouldn't like 2 events every week, obviously, but I like every so often the 2 events because what I do think this week, it gives people a great chance to change their situation. Meaning for Troy, like I just talked about, this could be a springboard to the Tour Championship, which he's never been to. For Sean O'Hare, who's been playing on a major medical and hasn't, he's not in the position he'd like to be. This could be the 1 week where if he catches lightning in a bottle, all of a sudden he has his job for next year on the PGA Tour, as opposed to what he's probably thinking right now is that I'm going to Korn Ferry. I'm going to the Korn Ferry playoffs to try to play for my life. So it's an opportunity for, 4 good days of golf, and you can change a lot. For Monday and his guy, maybe something great happens and all of a sudden, a Monday qualifier takes first or is runner up and gets 300 points, and all of a sudden they've changed their whole life. So I like that. The WGC events, obviously the best players in the world. It's good to see them play against each other where there's only, 70 players or something like that. The field is very good in Memphis. That's a great golf course. It's an underrated golf course. It's a good golf course. TPC Southwind. And so I think it's fun to have 2 events going on at the same time. And I'll actually probably, I'm going to obviously be very interested in what happens at the Barracuda, but I'll be watching what happens at the St. Jude as well.
It's free points, free money. I guess they've earned it, right? But
yeah,
should there be free points? So, and I get it. So if you win the WGC events, probably 600 or 700 FedEx Cup points. If you win the Barracuda, it's 300. But are you in favor of the FedEx giving free points in some of these events? You take it to the Tournament of Champions in Hawaii, free points, free money. You've already got a leg up.
I think in my opinion is if you've done something so well that you're able to get in this tournament, then yeah, you deserve some extra points. And it was funny at the 3M championship. So Troy played a practice round. He played 9 holes with Robert Streb on Tuesday. And I was talking to Streb and I said, hey, are you going to Reno, going to Tahoe. And he's like, no, I'm going to Memphis. And I was like, oh, that's right. And, he won at Sea Island last fall. And damn it, that's pretty good. He deserves to go to Memphis. And I'm happy that he's in Memphis. And I absolutely, give him some points. That's fine with me. He deserves it.
Where, so Troy, what do you say? Troy's what, 68th, 69th on the FedEx Cup, and you got, and I know Sean's in the 170s, and you mentioned it, so I might as well clarify to the people listening or watching on the podcast. Anybody on the PGA Tour that finishes in the top 200 on the points list at the end of the year automatically goes to the finals of the Korn Ferry Tour, which will then bring players from 126 to 200 on the PGA Tour, and then the players from, I think it is 26 to 75. And if I'm not wrong, Dahlby, they'll battle 3 tournaments, most points accumulated. The top 25 on that get their tour card.
Yeah, top 20. Yeah, absolutely. The top 20. So there's 25 players off the Korn Ferry, the top 25 that are going to get their tour card, but they do go in the playoffs, and then the top 25 guys who aren't in that 25, they get their tour card, but then all of those guys are kind of playing for ranking in the playoffs, except for the first guy out of the Korn Ferry is number 1, but then the rest of it is up for grabs. So even if you feel good, you're number 5 on the Korn Ferry Tour money list or points list, you still need to go play well in that Korn Ferry playoffs to kind of maintain that position. And the reason you want to maintain it is you're going to get an extra start or 2 or 3 over the course of next season. And that's really important. You maybe, for example, there's 2 or 3 or 4 guys from that category that get in the Waste Management Open. Not very many get in it because it's a small field, but there's certainly guys that aren't going to get into it. So I like, it's big drama. There's a lot of drama. And I know, Bernie, you love this stuff where it's the Korn Ferry guys trying to move their way up, or, a Sean O'Hare who hasn't played the kind of golf that he's capable of, doing something well. And I've got the FedEx list up here, and you look at, I think from now on, we start looking at who are the bubble guys. And so for the first playoff, the first PGA, the FedEx playoffs, the first one, the Northern Trust, it's the first top 125 guys, right? And they're also going to get their job for next year. Well, right now, number 125, now there's probably ways that he's going to have his tour card next year, but you look at 125 is Ricky Fowler. 124 is Nate Lashley. 23 is Adam Scott. So, those guys probably have ways to get back out there, but it's interesting that, those guys haven't had great seasons this year. 126 is Patrick Rogers. Camilo Villegas is 127, 128, Chesson Hadley. And Chesson was runner-up in a tournament this year, but that's really all that he's done. So these guys are on the bubble. And then after that first event, now we go from 125 to 70 to get in the BMW. Well, Troy right now is 67, but number 71 is Bubba Watson. So he's a bubble boy for getting in the BMW championship. Bubba Watson is not somebody that we would think would be in that position this year, that he's normally a guy that's going to probably be going to Atlanta. So this is when we start looking at these FedEx points and really trying to get a feel of who's doing what and why and where. And then, there are the guys, like you said, there's the guys that are 126 to 200 that are got to battle just to get a chance to go to the Korn Ferry playoffs. And it's a hard job sometimes, and as you know, Bernie, it's a hard job. And sometimes things just don't work for a year or something. Jason Duffner is 161 right now. That's just not where he would normally be. For him right now, the putter is his worst enemy. And so he's hopefully going to figure something out, but it's interesting to watch these numbers and to see who's doing what and where they're at. And I'm sure, Bernie, have you ever been, when you were caddying, did you ever have a situation where you were a bubble guy, where you and your guy were on the bubble of something?
Yeah, we were on the bubble Eeks, and we were on the bubble of getting in every champions event one year. I mean, we were first alternate, second alternate, first alternate, third alternate, in by one, but things like that. But I'm going to change the tune here real quick. I like how this is run now. I like the fact if you miss your tour card, you finish 126 to 200, you go to the Korn Ferry Tour Finals. I like the fact that from 26 to 75 on the Korn Ferry Tour, you go to the finals. I think it is better now than it was back when you started at stage 1 at Q School, you went to stage 2, you went to stage 3, you went to the finals. If you're in the top 50, you got your card. I think the way they do it now, and a lot of people are going to disagree, especially a lot of, touring pros and things like that. I think it's way better now doing it this way to earn yourself your way onto the PGA Tour than to, as you said, catch fucking lightning in a bottle 1 week at San Diego or wherever we used to play, or Palm Desert,
PGA West,
or Orlando, Florida. Yeah, PGA West or Orlando. Having one great week, get your tour card, and then have the worst year. I think that the players now, I think this is the way to go. I think it's way better. And I know, guys like JJ Colleen and things like that, John Peterson disagree with me, but I like the way they do it now. Earn your way to the PGA Tour, because you can go back in time and look at results and see players that caught the lightning in the bottle for that 1 week that you saw on the PGA Tour. Then you look at the end of the year, 24 events, 22 missed cuts, a 47th in Puerto Rico, and a 18th at Atlanta. And you never heard from him again. I think this is the way. I like the way they do it nowadays.
I think it is the right way now, and there's so many players, and when you have a Korn Ferry Tour as sort of your AAA golf, that you want to reward these guys. I still kind of like, the old 6 days at PGA West, but I understand that things need to change, and the drama sometimes that happened in those 6 days was interesting. But I think what we're going to see in both playoffs, the FedEx playoffs, or how to get into those tournaments, and then the Korn Ferry playoffs, you're going to see a lot of drama. And then, basically you get done with the playoffs and it's time to get started. And Bernie, you don't know about this, but that tomorrow the PGA Tour will be coming out with their fall schedule.
No, I don't know any of this stuff. That's why you handle this stuff.
And then obviously we've got a Ryder Cup this year. The Ryder Cup will be, I'm kind of looking at some notes here, the week of September 20th. But then there will be, it looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, probably 10 more events in the fall season. Now, the one thing, and they're going to be the same normal events. The one thing that will change or will follow last year with COVID, there's usually 3 tournaments in Asia. And it's the Zozo Championship, the CJ Cup, and then there's a WGC. One's in Japan, one's in South Korea, one's in China. If you remember last year, after the Shriners, which is the tournament in Las Vegas at TPC Summerlin, some of the guys, limited field, but some of the guys stayed and played at Shadow Creek. This year, it looks like they'll be doing the same thing, and I think this is for the CJ Cup. That looks like they're going to be doing the same thing. It won't be Shadow Creek, but it looks like it's a place called the Summit. And so there'll be some of the guys that play the Shriners and then stay for another week and play one of the limited field events. So hopefully Troy's qualified for a couple of those. And that's where, like you said, there's free points. And if Troy's in them, especially, I'm all for free points. But,
really?
Kind of the similar events. There's the tournament in Napa. It used to be the Safeway. There's a new sponsor. There's going to be Jackson, Mississippi, Vegas. They do go to Bermuda, Mayakoba, Houston, and then Sea Island. So that I think there's an announcement coming. And then there may be some shuffles in next spring. One of the shuffles is the NFL has added another game to their schedule, right? So
17 weeks now.
the Waste Management always ends on Super Bowl Sunday, right?
Always has.
So they're gonna
Don't tell me it's
they're
changing.
they're gonna flip. So the AT&T Pebble Beach will go first, and the Waste Management will then go, and will be that whatever day the Super Bowl is. It will be Super Bowl Sunday. So they're going to flip. Usually they play in Phoenix and then they go to Pebble Beach. This year they'll play Pebble Beach and then come to Phoenix. So it will be Super Bowl Sunday, but it's going to be a little different time frame. Another week, just another week.
Maybe they won't have shitty weather this year in Pebble Beach. I had a green chili burrito today for lunch. Put it on Twitter.
Burrito Express.
It was good as always. Dahlby, before we go, the Tuesday match is happening tomorrow. It's just three of us. I don't want to give Adam Blonker, good friend of the program, is playing. We're playing, and you know me. I'm not an early bird, okay? But I've got to get up at 6 a.m. for an 8 o'clock tee time tomorrow. We're playing a talking stick. It's supposed to be 115 in the afternoon or 112, so we're going to play in the morning. Any advice before we cut this off on what I should do with my game tomorrow? Should I go low cross hand? Should I hit hooks? Should I hit cuts? Should I drive the cart? Give me some advice real quick before we end this podcast.
Well, one of the things that with an early tee time that you probably should do, you've got to get up even earlier to get your body going. So I would recommend that you set your alarm for 4 a.m. with that's that early tee time. I'd get up at 4 or 5. Maybe take a brisk walk. And get your body going so that your body is in its normal function. So I think that's very important. That I would I'm happy to give you a wake up call at 4 or 5 because I'm generally up. So you know that I'm an early riser, so I'm happy to help. But I think that's the most important thing. And then maybe you go cross-handed. The big thing on the greens right now. Obviously, most golf courses, this is not prime time for golf in Arizona. The golf courses, so trying to figure out the speed of the greens is the big thing. Whether you're cross-handed, conventional long putter, whatever, the speed of the greens is going to be the big thing because they might be a little slower than in March. So be careful of that. But I think that early wake-up call is key.
Yeah. So why don't you call me about 3:45? Okay,
I will. I will.
I know you will. I'm just kidding. Fuck that. No, I'm done. No, do not call me at 3:45. All right, podcast number 4 is over. Thanks to Chris Schubert. Thanks to Sean Crespin. Thanks to our fine folks at Burrito Express. For Dahlby and Bernie, we'll talk to you next week. Have a great week, everybody.
Hit them straight, everybody.